Hey everyone! So, Faceless Rachel is back today, and instead of stock footage or footage of Kyrouac running around and playing, today you have me painting while we talk about books. This is a pretty requested video. I've had a few people saying like I've reviewed a lot of like terrible books recently, and they want to know, well, what books do you enjoy? I thought rather than just doing like an overall favourites list, which I think I've kind of repeated several times, I thought I'd do a what have I been reading recently and talk about the books that I've read over the last like month and a bit that I've really loved and enjoyed and just want to share with you for whatever reason. So that's what we're going to be doing today, as you see me filling a page in one of my sketchbooks. This was just kind of like a warm-up doodle sort of exercise that I did to try and kind of get a little bit of creativity and inspiration flowing. I just used some gouache in an Oates sketchbook. It's not really a wet medium sketchbook, but for the sort of like idea doodles I wanted to do, it's absolutely perfect. And honestly, to say it's not made for wet media, these sketchbooks can hold up like a hell of a lot. They are pretty amazing. I've seen a few of the YouTubers use these, and I was like, okay, I'd quite like to try them out. Got them. So impressed. So if you're interested in any of the materials I'm using today, all of these and my other art recommendations are available on my like Amazon. It's kind of like a store page. It's where I put like all my recommendations for stuff. I'll link those down in the description below if you want to check them out. They are affiliate links, so if you buy anything, it does help support my channel, as well as being products that I do genuinely recommend and love. A final note about the art before we jump into talking about the books is that you'll notice I tried to do like these 4 small panels based on like the different seasons, so I tried to have different colour schemes for that and kind of draw these little miniature scenes in those styles. Spring was one that I really actually struggled with, and kind of the idea sort of got away from me, and I think I maybe kind of pulled it back at the beginning, but for a while it wasn't really working. Summer was a little bit of a disappointment for me as well, because I think I needed more pink in there, and I think the red that I chose to use for the sky ended up being too dark for summer. But overall, I'm really happy with how autumn and winter turned out. So let me know what you think of the finished products down in the comments below. And for now, let's talk about books I have enjoyed recently. The first one that I kind of want to recommend is A Natural History of Dragons by Mary Brennan. This is the first in a series of books following Isabella, who is a young woman living in a world not dissimilar to like 17 to 1800s England, except in this world, there are dragons. Oh, I loved it. It was fantasy, but it still felt real, and the references to kind of like real scientific and natural discoveries, they just kind of made it, and they made it feel really good. It was a really fun read. I ended up reading this because I had the whole collection sent to me by one of you lovely lot to my PO box, and I was really keen because I'd seen the books around and really wanted to read them. And so when one of you guys recommended them as well, I was like, well, I have to start now. And so far I've only read the first one, but I am so keen to read the others. So A Natural History of Dragons. It follows Isabella, who is a young woman born to a fairly rich, well-off family where she's expected to be like a proper lady and do all these like boring lady things, you know, like sewing, entertaining guests, popping out babies. But she says screw all that, you know. Isabella, she loves animals, especially dragons. And as a child, she literally like dissects a dead bird that she finds so she can try and understand how it works. She goes around her garden like capturing insects and bugs and teeny tiny little dragons so she can study them, and she devours books on science and history and animals that she like sneaks out of her father's study. That bit in particular, the like love of books and reading, that was very relatable to me and kind of stood out. So while I didn't dissect animals as kids, I kind of did everything else, and so I really loved that. As she gets older, she's expected to marry, and she manages to find someone who she shares her love of dragons with and who does genuinely like love and respect her and treats her as an equal. And it's quite refreshing with a book like this, because either you see a woman going along with society's expectations and ended up miserable, or she completely defies them, like for the sake of independence and true love, and she's happy but she ends up shunned by everyone. This book offers a kind of fantastic compromise, and it does what you wouldn't really expect. You know, she understands society's rules, and even if she doesn't agree with them, she understands them enough that she can twist them and use them to suit her needs and her wants. And I kind of think, while some people might see it as a little sneaky, I see it as very smart, and I think it's something a lot of us could learn from. Sometimes there's a time and a place to fight back, and sometimes there's a time and a place to use the rules to your own advantage. And that's what Isabella seems to understand as a character, and I like that about her. So she ends up married to a pretty great guy, and her husband go along with an expedition to study dragons in a foreign country, and there are adventures. It feels almost like a crime thriller in some ways. There's lots of kind of like politics and mystery and uncovering secrets, but it's set in this wonderful fantasy world, and like I say, there are dragons! How can you not love anything with dragons? One criticism I saw of this book was that there weren't enough dragons in the book for some people's liking, but I really loved the parts that there were with dragons and thought it felt like you were genuinely reading the memoirs of someone who'd studied these creatures. And, you know, I really like the way at times she talks about, like, dragon physiology. And she writes in a way that is so absorbing but still feels slightly academic. And it does feel very, like, real and well-researched that you have to kind of stop yourself and think, oh, wait, no, hang on a minute. These aren't real animals. She's making all this up. But at the same time, you can see that she did base a lot of what she said, especially about their physiology and how they like move and stuff. She did base a lot of that on real animals, so you could tell a lot of research went into the book, which I really respect. I also just really love the protagonist, as you can probably tell from how I've kind of like gushed about her so far. But she's strong-willed, she's intelligent, brave, and you see her throughout the book gaining so much confidence and growing into this like wonderfully independent woman, you know? It's very inspiring, and I just really liked her. And I just can't wait to read the rest of the series, you know? There's a real contrast as well between, because she's writing this as kind of like an old woman in her like 80s or something. And you can tell there's a real difference in tone between like the elderly woman in her writing this and the voice of like the younger woman in the story she's telling. There's like a real contrast there. And while you can still see it's the same person, you can kind of see how much she's grown. And it works very, very well, and I really like that, you know? Sorry, I'm probably rambling now, but honestly, I cannot recommend this book enough. Also, I did cry at the end of this book, and I know, I'm one of these people who's like super emotional. I cry at everything that has like even a little bit of emotion in it, whether it's like happy tears or sad tears. Like, I cry. I'm a crier, okay? But yeah, this book made me cry, which is always a sign of a book that's kind of hit me hard. So yeah, recommend it. Moving on to a really short little piece of kind of non-fiction-y, almost like self-help kind of thing. Another book that I've been reading recently that really pleasantly surprised me was Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's subtitled 10 Ways to Share Your Creativity and Get Discovered. So a lot of you guys probably know that before I did YouTube, I used to work in marketing. So books like this have always interested me. And I think it's really important to keep learning new things and keep getting new ideas for getting my work out there, you know? Obviously, when I was in marketing, I wanted to be a good marketer, and I wanted to be good at my job and keep learning more. And now I'm on YouTube, I'm basically marketing myself all the time, and it's something that I struggle to be kind of objective with sometimes. It's something that I really want to work on. So keeping learning about marketing in the field and kind of learning new ways to get myself and my work out there is really kind of important to me, and something that I'm really passionate about and something that I really want to keep working on and improving. Which is why I read kinds of books like this, but a lot of them can be filled with crap. A lot of them can just be repetition of old books. A lot of them can just be written by some guy in his basement who thinks he's amazing even though he's not done anything with his life ever, and he just thinks, oh, I'll write a self-help book and call myself an entrepreneur. This isn't one of those books, sorry. This one I did find genuinely helpful, and I ended up, because it's a fairly quick read, but I read it on my Kindle, and I ended up going through and like finding loads of little passages to highlight and little tips and tricks and stuff, and I sent like a big long list of them off to a lot of my musician friends to be like, you guys will enjoy this, you'll like get some ideas out of it, look at my like, you know, quick quote list from the book, this will help you guys. So it was definitely one that I wanted to share, you know? A lot of people criticize myself and other YouTubers with lines like, you just made this for views, or whatever. Like, it's a comment that so many of us get all the time. And while I can't speak for anyone else, you know, I have to admit, yes, I make videos because I love it and I enjoy it. But you always have to remember that this is my job. Of course, I not only want views, but I need views. I don't just make this stuff and put it on the internet because I want it to just sit there. I make it and put it out there because I want people to watch it. I obviously want to make money from it because I have rent and bills to pay. Money aside, I want people to see my stuff because I don't just enjoy the process of making videos. but I love the idea of making entertaining videos. I love the action of entertaining people, feeling like I'm actually speaking to an audience, connecting with my viewers and hearing your opinions, you know? When I sit down nowadays and make a video, it actually feels a lot easier than when I first started, because it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm talking to myself anymore. It feels like I'm genuinely talking to you guys, and I definitely have like you as an audience in mind. Even now as I'm talking, you know, I think back to like certain comments people have said and certain usernames and avatars I've seen over and over, and like I imagine you guys there listening, and yeah, it really helps me with like the confidence and stuff. But the point is, yes, I do want my work to be seen, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that's something that this book kind of helped me come to terms with, not feeling guilty about that, you know? So Show Your Work has this whole chapter on this whole kind of concept and idea, with fantastic observations such as everybody says they want artists to make money, and then when they do, everybody hates them for it, which is definitely something you see a lot of on YouTube. Not quite as much now as you used to, but no, it's definitely a view a lot of people still hold. And it reminded me, the book, it reminded me of the importance of celebrating the successes of everyone who works extremely hard in this incredibly tough industry, and in all creative industries, you know? It also contained a lot of really great advice about how to deal with harsh feedback and mean comments, how if you want to be a great creator, you first have to be a fan and consumer of that kind of content, which I think is a really, really important tip. It gives advice on how to appeal to and connect with your audience, and after reading it, I'm just genuinely feeling really inspired and hopeful, and I can't wait to try out some of the advice in it. So if you are, I guess, working in any kind of creative field, whether you're a YouTuber yourself or you're a musician, a writer, a poet, a painter, anything, I think this book is something you can probably get a hell of a lot out of. It's a really quick, simple read that got me feeling really inspired, and sometimes that's all I really want from a book, you know, something that's going to kind of boost my creativity and get me like thinking about things and seeing things from a new perspective and kind of wanting to try new things out, and that's what this book gave me. So yeah, thoroughly recommend it. Back to fiction, and my next one that I read, which did take me a long time because it's a chunky book, was 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Now, I've only read a few Stephen King books, and I know many people have mixed feelings about him, and I know he has some issues when it comes to writing about women and children. But all that aside, I really enjoyed this book. It's about a man who finds a little crack in time where he can slip back from the 2010s to the 1950s and 60s, where he lives a life with the intention of stopping the assassination of JFK. That's hard to say. I went in expecting a kind of sci-fi dystopian time travel story, and ended up finding, I don't know, more of a kind of everyday, real life, lovely little story about a man finally discovering a life that makes him happy, but feeling like he has another job or responsibilities that get in the way. It was different to what I expected, but not in a bad way. I actually really enjoyed it and felt it brought up a hell of a lot of questions in my mind about kind of things and issues that I wasn't really expecting it to make me question. So, for example, in the present, he knows that a man's entire family was killed by his drunken dad in the mid-50s. So when he goes back in time, he intends to stop him by killing him first. But then once he does, he has all this guilt from it, because even though he knew the man would do the terrible thing if he wasn't stopped, he hadn't done it yet when he killed him. So did that really mean he deserved to die? And it was like an interesting little question there, and there were lots of these throughout the book. And like I say, it was a book that was a really good, interesting story, but it also really got me thinking. It definitely got a little bit slow in the middle, but I guess that's to be expected with these longer books. And I mean, this one is a chunky, nearly 800-page boy, but it definitely doesn't feel that long. It definitely got quicker and stepped up towards the end. And honestly, I was kind of a little sad it wasn't longer. I would have loved for there to be more focus on what happened in the future after certain things were changed. I wish that part of the story had been longer and more detailed, but that's more of just like a personal preference opinion. It wasn't necessary, and not having it didn't necessarily detract from anything. So yeah, overall just a really fun, fascinating, I was going to say little book, but big chunky book, which is well worth the read and the time and effort that kind of goes into reading it. I say effort, it's not a difficult book, it's just a long book. I think after Misery, this is probably my favourite Stephen King book that I've read so far. That said, I've not read Carrie yet, and I've heard very good things about that, so see what happens after I've read that. Finally, a cheeky mention of comics and graphic novels, and the series that I have been obsessed with recently is The Boys. I literally just devoured all 12 volumes back to back, and it was incredible. So I picked this up after watching the first season of The Boys on Amazon Prime, and you guys probably know it's about a team who work with the CIA to stop kind of out of control superheroes. So it's what superheroes would be like in the real world. So not necessarily all these like perfect, wonderful little heroes, but these kind of terrifying, overpowered people who in a lot of cases will often use and abuse their power to kind of like hurt other people or live these really hedonistic, however you want to pronounce it, lifestyles. And at the same time, they are kind of controlled by a big corporation who are just sort of in it for the money and really exploit the superhero powers and phenomena and so on. I don't want to give too much away. There are definitely differences between the TV show and the comics. There are certain things like in the comics, I preferred Hugh's character to in the TV shows, whereas in the TV shows, I preferred Annie's character to how she is in the comics. Other things like I prefer the Deep in the TV show to the comics, but I preferred Homelander in the comics to the TV show. So there's lots of things like that. Billy Butcher, I think I prefer Billy Butcher in the comics, but I think that's only because the actor in the TV show has such a terrible accent. You know, he's this guy from New Zealand trying to put on a London Cockney accent, and it's just really bad. But no, even if you've not seen the TV show, you are going to love these comics because they're just absolutely fantastic. The story is so in-depth, they have really good backstories, the whole kind of plot is really, really well thought out. I loved the conclusion, thought it wrapped everything up really, really well. There weren't any loose ends or threads or anything. There were a few bits that were really sad and made me cry. Oh my god, one in particular, I won't go into it, but if you've read the series and you know the kind of person I am, you will know exactly which bit it was. It hit me hard. So the other thing to mention is that this is a series that was recommended to me by Ocean and Eric Murphy last year when I was in Texas, and I can't believe it took me nearly a year to actually read it, and I'm so glad I did. And I'm just so grateful to those two for the recommendation as well, because loved it. But you know, I trust them too, like a hell of a lot, and if they recommend something, it must be good. Final little kind of honourable mentions are two books that I'm currently reading at the minute but haven't finished yet. And that is Dog is Love by Clive Wynne, which is subtitled The Science of Why and How Your Dog Loves You. Basically, yes, it's the science of dogs and love and emotions and how they evolved and what they can do and what we know about them and how we've learned this stuff about them, and it's absolutely wonderful and beautiful. And if you're a dog lover like me, if you're a dog parent like me, you will love this book. It's fantastic. So that's the non-fiction. And the kind of fiction one that I'm reading at the minute is The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is a book that I've had recommended to me over and over and over the years, and for some reason I've just never picked up before now. And I didn't really know what to expect or what to think of it, but I only picked it up yesterday and I'm already 3/4 of the way through. And it's around a 400 page book, so it's like a mid-sized book, and I've already got through it this quickly. So that's a kind of testament to how much I'm enjoying it and liking it, and how it's really thought-provoking, but also kind of really easy to read and digest, and you just kind of get really absorbed in it. So thoroughly recommend that as well. But like I say, I've not got to the end of those two yet, so we'll see what I think about them when I finish them. Anyway, that is pretty much me done for today. They're all the books I want to talk about. If you want to grab your own copies of any of these books that I've spoken about, affiliate links will be down in the description below. There'll also be links to all the art and painting equipment I used, except brushes. Brushes are just something that I've picked up randomly from tons of different places over the years, so I don't know what I have anymore. It's just a jumble and a collection. I wish I could give you better recommendations, but I'm useless, sorry. But for now, thank you so much for watching today. Quick note is that I am going to be speaking in London at DaveCon on the 4th of April. If you would like to come along and watch me speak on a panel about women in atheism, along with tons of other incredible people. There's also going to be Aaron Raw, Lloyd Evans, and Steve Rationality Rules are all going to be there as well as some fantastic female creators. It's also going to be hosted and kind of run by Dave Worley. It's going to be amazing. It's only 20 quid if you want to come along. I thoroughly recommend it if you're in England. It's going to be a great night, and you come out for a couple of drinks with us afterwards and kind of hang out and get to know everyone. It's going to be really fun. So if you're around, please come to that. It would be amazing to meet you all. Anyway, that's me done for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video and my little doodly painting thingies, this little warm-up exercise that I did in my sketchbook. Let me know what you thought of that down in the comments below. I'm rambling, shutting up now. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you again very, very soon.